Hello, wonderful human beings. I hope that everyone is doing well. Welcome back to a new video. My name is Evelin Barta, and in today's video, I want to talk about Saturn moving into Pisces from the March 7th, 2023 until 2026 or May 2025, but then we will feel the effects of it until 2026. So Saturn is changing signs every 3 years, every 2.5 years. And after spending the past 2.5 years in Aquarius, now is moving into Pisces. That is bringing challenges, gifts, and then big changes in our society. So I want to talk about what is happening on a collective level due to this transit. So as we know, Saturn is the planet of karma. They call it the Lord of Karma. It's the planet of limitation, of discipline, of structure, of order, restriction, but then mastery as well. So it's kind of like a serious planet that will force you to put in the work. If you believe in something and you really believe in that particular thing, then it will make you to work for that particular thing. So let's say you wanted to achieve something in life, you have a serious goal, but you never felt capable of achieving that goal, or you never had the courage, or you were just too lazy, or you did have certain coping mechanisms and distractions that were distracting you from achieving that thing. Saturn will help you to achieve that, but you will have to prove to yourself that you're really putting in the work and you're serious about that. So that's kind of like that energy, you know, that energy of the teacher, the tough teacher, that will be quite harsh on you, but in the end will reward you with great gifts. So as I said, if you really believe in something, you can prove that you're serious about it, then your rewards will be long-lasting. So it will bring some long-lasting changes. So Saturn is about doing the work and not finding shortcuts, and then not doing the bypass. So this transit is throwing challenges our way, and it is forcing us to go the right way, what feels right and not what feels comfortable and what feels easy. And this is exactly what our society needs at this time, and then we individually are needing that as well. So any Saturn transit in one sign is facilitating a lesson for humanity and for the individual as well. If the lesson is learned, then the reward is inner peace, and then other benefits, other bonuses as well that come with that. So as I was saying, for Saturn, it takes 2.5 years approximately to spend time in one sign before it moves to another sign. And it takes around 30 years to go full circle around the zodiac. So it takes around 30 years to have Saturn back in the same position in your chart and in the same sign as it was at the time of your birth. And whenever that happens, we call that your Saturn return. So it happens before your 30th birthday, and then it happens again before your 60th birthday. So that is always bringing challenges and big changes in the life of the individual. So I remember when I had my Saturn return, I didn't know about that. I didn't know much about astrology, but I remember around my 28th birthday, I was faced with lots of challenges and upheavals, and it was a huge wake-up call for me, that period. And then also I can say that my spiritual awakening has started around that time. So at the age of 28, 29 or something like that, it was like a soul search for me, what was followed by that. So every Saturn return is a wake-up call for the individual. For some people is the dark night of the soul, but it's also bringing some amazing gifts and some amazing upgrades in our lives. So in the past 2.5 years, Saturn was in Aquarius, and Aquarius being the sign of people, of friendships, of goals, of social connections. Also, like, Aquarius is a very visionary sign, it's very future oriented. So it was bringing us the ability, like collectively as well, to focus on our greatest visionary goals and aspirations. And again, like, Aquarius being the sign of people, Saturn was dissolving those friendships in our lives. So we remember at the time of the COVID, there's no person that did not experience some breakup or an end of a friendship, or I don't know, dissolving of a relationship with someone. And that was because of the different opinions of, you know, like two different groups having different opinions about the liquids, about the virus itself, about the restrictions and everything. So what Saturn in Aquarius brought to us in the past 2.5 years is to look at our friendships differently, to examine those friendships with greater discrimination that was happening collectively as well. And then it was about breaking free from the old limitations and old restrictions of the past years to create a more appropriate and a newer approach and structure. So this is what we experienced since December 2020 when Saturn moved into Aquarius. So Saturn is the planet of limitation, restriction, and contraction as well. So it's the opposite of Jupiter, which is expansion. So it likes to shrink things. Whenever it's in a particular sign, it will limit those areas that are being represented by that particular sign, and it will shrink those areas as well. So what Saturn in Aquarius was bringing was social distancing. So Aquarius is social, distancing is Saturn, is very Saturnian, to distance ourselves from each other, to detach from each other. Air travel, limitations and delays as well. Air travel being very Aquarian, and then limitations is Saturn. Online and digital work, so work is Saturn. The digital world and technology is Aquarius. So at the beginning of 2020 and then end of 2019, when COVID appeared and it was all over the news, Saturn was still in Capricorn, and Capricorn is the sign of authorities, is the police, is the military. So we were experiencing this very strong authoritarian energy. And what happened as a result of that? The lockdowns. And then as Saturn moved into Aquarius in December 2020, the collective started to see things from a different light. And then slowly, we started to break free from those limitations that were put upon us during Saturn in Capricorn. So what happened during Saturn in Aquarius was going from that herd mentality, like following the crowd blindly without checking with our own integrity and our own authenticity. So we went from there to having a good fellowship and the desire to contribute to our society without expecting anything in return. We went from false democracy to understanding what real democracy is, and understanding also what is the difference between false and real democracy, and then what is false freedom and what is real freedom. We went from intellectual snobbery, for example, bullying others, right? What happened at the time of COVID. So the collective and the vast majority of people moved from that snobbery to really understanding what sciences are doing their research. Some of them started to have an expertise in certain areas. So from that snobbery, we moved to critical thinking, like unbiased thinking and free thinking as well. Also, in terms of technology, we went from that digital addiction and following blindly what is being put in front of us, like in terms of technology, to understanding the shadow sides of technology, the shadow sides of this digital world, and what is a healthy technology and the real value of technology, and how we can use it in a way that it can contribute to our lives instead of replacing certain things that are organic, replacing our organic evolution. So the shadow side of technology has been exposed to us, and the toxic side of technology, and we understood the limitations of it. The vast majority of people understand now what is the limitation of technology, and we understand that we can use that, as I said, to our benefit. We can use it for bringing people together and connecting to like-minded people and so on. So during Saturn in Aquarius, you become the authority. So that authority, that Capricornian energy, Capricorn is being ruled by Saturn, by the way, is being replaced with you becoming the authority of your own life. And that is what Aquarius is about. So now we are wrapping up all the lessons that we have learned in the past 2.5 years. And as Saturn is moving into Pisces, is ensuring us that all our karmic debts and balances are paid on time. So what is interesting about Saturn is that it is a harsh teacher, as I said. It's a strict teacher as well, but it's the master teacher. So if you really do the work and you pass the test, then you will be rewarded. So if you feel like something has been taken away from you, or the past 2.5 years have been super tough on you, you will be rewarded as well with those things that are coming with the passing of the test. So you will receive a little bit of a diploma, and that is different for each and every individual. And then also I would suggest you to check in which house Saturn is transiting, because you will be experiencing those things related to those houses. And the best is to check it based on your ascendant or rising signs. So for example, now for me, Saturn in Pisces is happening in my 6th house, which is very much related to my daily routines, work, health as well. So I have to pay more attention to my exercise, yeah, just to my health in general and these kind of things. So yeah, Saturn can bring harsh lessons as well, challenges, but is also pushing us to bring out our fullest potential. And we are always becoming more mature and wiser than how we were before these particular transits. And more aligned as well with what we are on a soul level and what we are as individuals. And because now it's happening in Pisces, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. And what is representing this is an ending. So Saturn's move here indicates an ending and the completion point to a bigger cycle. So what Saturn in Pisces is bringing us is a reality check. And the sun just came out, so we have to remember that the sun will shine. Even though we might have these reality checks, we will be gifted with lots of blessings. So as I said, it is bringing challenges, but it's also bringing a bigger responsibility for us in areas that are ruled by Pisces. So it's like a collective Saturn return, because it is the last sign of the zodiac, so it's an ending. And this collective Saturn return means that we are all experiencing and moving through the karmic lessons and the gifts of Saturn after it has toured through the entire zodiac, so after it has completed its mission and went full circle. So in a way, it's a completion for Saturn as well, right? So Pisces is the sign of light and dark and the unseen world. It is very spiritual, it's very sensitive. It is also a very self-sacrificing sign. It has these abstract ideas, creativity, compassion, empathy, going with the flow. It's a mutable sign, so it means that it's very adaptable and it's extremely free-flowing as well. So it's the exact opposite of Saturn, and it will be forced by Saturn to get a little bit more rigid and then more limited, more structured, more grounded as well, more reserved. So Saturn will do that to Pisces. So that means that the creative, intangible energies of Pisces will be much more rooted in reality. So that Neptunian, illusionary, maybe even delusional energy sometimes that Pisces is about will get much more grounded. So there's no more spiritual bypassing. So imagine whatever artistic, creative ability and inclination you might have, you will be able to bring it to the third dimensional reality. So it's reminding me of this alchemical process of the magician, for example, when you are touching spirit and you are receiving information from spirit, but you will be able to materialize it as well. So you can be helped really by Saturn. So let's say if Pisces is music, then Saturn is the writing down of the musical note. So if there's any music in your head, you will be able to write that down on a piece of paper. And this is what Saturn is about. So it's much more practical. It's a real teacher. But I know that Saturn transits are always scaring everybody. So collectively, the creative and spiritual field will benefit greatly from the presence of Saturn. And it can take roots in our collective, that spiritual field much more than before. The spiritual wellness and holistic industries can get a wake-up call as well during this transit and under this energy. So that can be positive as well, a positive, wake-up call, but it can be a harsh lesson as well that need to be learned. So certain attitudes, certain religious beliefs as well, spiritual beliefs as well can change during this transit. And what I feel like the spiritual field will be either ridiculed or it will go to a more rooted and more pragmatic direction, so more scientific direction. And I believe that this will be the start of the birth of the spiritual science. So people will not be interested about this woo-woo mentality and new age spirituality. and positive thinking. And you might realize during this transit that positive thinking does not do anything for you anymore. It was serving you to a certain point, but now you really want to see reality. And this will become your biggest spiritual teacher and biggest spiritual practice. So this is just my personal opinion and prediction that certain spiritual groups will start to be ridiculed by other groups that are more science oriented, or many people will leave this new age spirituality. And I believe that this will be the end of certain spiritual gurus as well, that are reinforcing and are full of spiritual bypassing. So you might be realizing at this time that you really want to see the truth. You really want to see reality. And for that, you have to dig very deep into your shadows. And I'm not gonna lie, this is not going to be a very easy process for people, because your faith, your spiritual beliefs will be put under test. So it will be a huge wake-up call for those that were using spirituality as an escapism. So this can be a real dark night of the soul for many people. And honestly, personally, I'm experiencing that as well. That I no longer want to find solutions to everything, with spirituality. And I'm starting to accept the fact that certain things just don't have a solution. I mean, they don't have the solution that I think that they have. And I have to accept that I don't need to find solutions to everything. So sometimes the biggest solution is not to want to find solutions. So this can bring a crisis of faith and disillusionment in the collective. And it can also manifest in the field of arts as gritty realism. And this overly positive attitude will no longer work for many people. And many will be saying, I'm sorry, don't come up with, some fake positivity crap. I want to see reality. And the truth is that life is full of tragedies. Life is full of hardship. And I have to look at my trauma as it is, and not to try to color it and to present it in a light that is beautiful and positive and unicorns. And, I have to accept the harsh side of reality. I have to accept the tragedies of reality. But I'm going to benefit from that because I will become much more compassionate towards other people, much more empathetic by understanding the human suffering. So we will start understanding during this transit that if we really want to contribute to the benefit and well-being of other people, and we want to really lift others, then we have to let go of wanting to paint all the time a colorful picture out of every harsh and traumatic situation. That's not going to help. That's not compassion. So we really have to tune into that human suffering, and we cannot do that while we are escaping reality. New Age doesn't do that for you. Shadow work does that for you, and that is what real shadow work means. So really understanding our lineage and the suffering that our ancestors have been through. So Saturn in Pisces is really about the American dream dying sometimes. The optimism dying sometimes, and seeing the harsh truth of our economy and whatever is going on. And it's about giving up on our comfortable fantasies and then illusions as well. We have to awaken to our compassion and help those that are drowning. You cannot help those that are drowning when you're living in a world of fantasy. And even when you want to escape from reality, Saturn will not allow you to do that. Okay, so Pisces is representing ending and seeding of new beginnings, and Saturn is the planet of karma, is the planet of endings, the end of life. So this transit can bring many, many endings, and it can bring the end of life for many people as well. Our beliefs will be tested, the end of our beliefs as well. So, as I said, the American dream can die. It can be the end of the old industrial world, the Western society, and it can be the beginning of a totally different structure. The truth is that the real potential of Saturn in Pisces is only available to those that are inclined toward the path of contemplation and that are having a mystical bent as well, an inclination to explore the mystical world. That will be the real potential of Saturn in Pisces. And the gifts that are received by Saturn is to serve others, is to serve ourselves as well in the best way. And to understand, as I said, that when it comes to the human suffering, an airy-fairy waffle of the New Age spirituality is not going to help you. It's not going to end the suffering. It's going to suppress the suffering only. And that airy-fairy mentality will not get you through the dark night of the soul at all. But what we are being gifted in return is to pay more attention to mental health. So I believe that this transit, because of this harsh reality check, will bring a lot of depression in the collective, when we will realize that not everything has a solution, not everything has the solution of optimism, like just thinking positively. And that will be harsh on many people. So there's a lot of depression, and especially for this generation that is experiencing their Saturn return, which is very much the Gen Z. So Saturn will push this into our face, that we have to realize that we are facing a risk of global recession, geopolitical tension, wars, prices are going up, grocery bills are going up, the real estate is going down, the value of the money that we worked hard for shrank as well. So these are those harsh realities that we are coming to terms with. And only when we come to terms with these realities, then we can find resolutions to the things that might have a resolution. Because we realize probably that, as I said, sometimes the resolution is not to try to find resolutions. So that doesn't mean that we have to be pessimistic, but I believe that pessimism will be very present in the society. But then also a lot of compassion will be present in the society because of this willingness to face the truth. So there will be a lot of heart-centered energy as well, because Pisces is about that. So what I also believe that can be a very big possibility is the censorship of certain spiritual groups, because Saturn wants to limit everything that is free-flowing, right? So the spiritual community is a little bit like the wild west. The wild west. There's so much information out there, and then there's so much ungrounded information as well, and there might be some attempts to limit certain information, which can be a positive or a negative thing. So yeah, this online censorship can be very present as well. But then also this transit will bring into the collective the desire to understand our lineage, our ancestors, the religious practices, the spiritual practices of our ancestors as well. This transit can be about the increased higher senses as well, increased intuition, increased clairvoyant, claircognizant, and so on abilities, like psychic abilities increasing as well. But at the same time, we might be experiencing as well, because of this limiting energy of Saturn, our creativity being held back, our spirituality being held back by internal or external factors and forces. But at the same time, we will be able to rework our creativity, and we will be able to rework our spirituality as well. So to give it a different nuance, a different meaning, a more grounded meaning as well. We might be experiencing a tug of war between structure versus going with the flow. This transit can be about the increased higher senses as well, increased intuition, increased clairvoyant, claircognizant, and so on abilities, like psychic abilities increasing as well. But at the same time, we might be experiencing as well, because of this limiting energy of Saturn, our creativity being held back, our spirituality being held back by internal or external factors and forces. But at the same time, we will be able to rework our creativity, and we will be able to rework our spirituality as well. So to give it a different nuance, a different meaning, a more grounded meaning as well. We might be experiencing a tug of war between structure versus going with the flow. So we might have moments when we feel like we really want to get organized, but then other times that we should be going with the flow. So like this push and pull between these two forces, you know, the yang and the yin energies, kind of. The last transit of Saturn in Pisces was between 1994 and 1996. So we might be experiencing similar themes that are coming up. And as I said, people that were born between those years, I mean, in between 94 and 96, they are experiencing their Saturn return. So Saturn can restrict or redefine the energies in the areas that Pisces is ruling in. and that can be the oil and the gas industry, drugs, pharmaceuticals, spirituality, as I said, sea and fishing, charities. So these next 2.5 years can be about the redefining of the healthcare system completely, or there can be shortage of healthcare workers or pressure on the hospital system, and then adopting more like a holistic approach when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to mental health as well. There can be a different approach to drugs and these alternative healing methods as well. So people might become more and more interested in these alternative healing methods and therapies and shadow work, as I said. And because Saturn is shrinking many things as well, there can be a shrinking of the oil and gas prices, so lower prices, but the next couple of years can be about a reduced supply as well when it comes to those industries. And also what I feel like there might be happening is the downplaying of these holistic approaches, as I said, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to healing, and a downplaying, maybe an official downplaying as well to the so-called pseudoscience. So we might be seeing that playing out in the collective as well. There can be a rise in social movements because there is very much like a Saturnian and Neptunian energy, you know, when Saturn is super active and Neptune is super active, a rise in different social groups as well. And Pisces is very cultish, so like forming cults in that sense, forming different spiritual groups. So yeah, it will be a very interesting period. And it will be a real soul searching period because of this disillusionment. And also certain religious dogmas, certain questions about world religions might be asked by many people. For example, how religion and spirituality are connected to laws and rules that are governing our society and these kind of things. And what we are seeing in Iran that is playing out is a great example for that, you know, a redefining of a social structure that is based on religious dogmas or religious beliefs, how toxic those beliefs are, how true those beliefs are. By the way, I did 2 readings on my Esoterica channel about Iran, and I just posted a video yesterday, so about the protests in Iran and then predictions. So if you're interested, you can watch that on my other channel. So I also wanted to talk about a little bit of history, things that happened in the past when we did have this transit. And this can give us a bit of overview and an idea about what kind of themes are surfacing in the collective during a transit like this. So, for example, in between February 1935 and 1938, the fascism was already growing in Europe during Saturn in Pisces transit. There was the Spanish Civil War that started by Franco. Hitler was killing already many people in Nazi Germany. So this was the period, the pre-Second World War period. Stalin was imprisoning millions and killing at least 700,000 people in 1936. And then there was another transit between 1964 March and 1967. And that's where the Vietnam War started to escalate. There were already massive anti-war protests all around the world. So that is that Saturnian and Neptunian, you know, energy and then influence. Social movements starting to appear all around the world. It was the rise of Martin Luther King as well, that he was giving loads of speeches. And then it was the Black Panther Party that formed in 1966 as well during this time. The Ku Klux Klan committed loads of murders during this time. So there are loads of things as well that are escalating in the collective during a transit like this. In South Africa, for example, Nelson Mandela was imprisoned in 1964. And then in 1965, in Indonesia, 1 million people were killed in the genocide. So unfortunately, Saturn in Pisces can bring end of life for the masses as well. And then just because Pisces has this self-sacrificing tendency as well, you know, like a spiritual sacrifice. I'm sacrificing myself for the collective, for the greater good, in a sense. And also what I was saying about Saturn is that the planet of karma, and it's also responsible for the end of cycles, you know, like karmic lessons. And certain karmic lessons cannot be completed unless there's a real completion, like a physical completion as well. So interesting times are coming, and definitely big changes, and Saturn is not a planet to be feared, but is to be understood. And it's all about understanding how it can influence our lives and how we can turn these harsh lessons, and you know, how can we use this very wise, very master teacher in our favor. Okay, so it's not to be feared, but it's to be used and understood the full potential of it. And we can only understand the full potential of it if we are open to mystical things, because Pisces is very, very mystical. All right, guys, so this is what I wanted to talk about in today's video. I hope it helped. I hope it resonated. Please give this video a thumbs up if it did. You can subscribe to this channel. And then if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to my other channel that is called Esoterical with Evelyn, where I'm sharing tarot readings and yeah, esoteric stuff. Also, if you want to book a personal reading, you can find information about that down below in the description box. And if you want to support my work and my channel, then you can do it on Patreon, where I'm sharing readings as well, and then other things too about our society, and then just, you know, world updates as well. I talk about these things that I'm coming across, news that I'm coming across about our society and what is going on. So yeah, thank you so much, guys, for your support. Thank you so much for watching, for being here. Take care, everybody, and I cannot wait to see you next time.